Morning. Can everyone hear me? Okay. So how many people know the role that workplace culture plays in the success of your business, whether you're for-profit, nonprofit, healthcare, higher ed? How many people know the role healthcare culture plays? How many people know what their culture is like for their organization? Today I want to share just a few tips about how you can unlock the success of culture when it comes to your business. I'm going to briefly talk about what culture is, and then I'm going to share some factors that impact workplace culture, the benefits of a positive culture, the consequences of a toxic workplace culture, and leave you with a few strategies to improve your workplace culture. I always like to start with a quote. How many people have ever shopped or are familiar with Zappos, the shoe place? Tony Sway, who is the creator of Zappos, may he rest in peace, he believed that workplace culture defined how successful your business was going to be. If we take care of the culture, everything else will be taken care of. Your customer service, your productivity, your profits, everything falls under that culture umbrella. So let's define workplace culture. When you think about workplace culture, what are some words that come to mind? Trust. What else? Collaboration. What was the other one? Productivity. All those are good. I want you to think about how your organization behaves. What's your organization's belief system? What's your organization's attitude? What's the personality of an organization? A lot of people think, oh, does my organization have personality? Culture is the personality. The organizational climate is the actual mood of the organization. But when you think about workplace culture, it encompasses all of those things. The behavior of the organization, the belief systems of the organization, the attitude of the organization, the environment in which the employees operate and work within that organization. So let's talk about some factors that shape workplace culture. What creates culture? It all starts at the top. You know how those of you who are parents and you tell your kids to do certain things, but sometimes your behavior is opposite of what you're telling them to do? So if you want them to follow certain behaviors, you need to model that behavior because your modeling speaks louder than your words. So as leaders in your organization, it's your job to set the tone for the culture in that organization. And then on top of that, once you've set the tone, how your employees are engaged. Because we know that employee engagement is extremely important. According to Gallup, on average, the cost of disengagement is $450 billion a year. That's a lot of money if your employees are disengaged. So it's important to make sure that your employees are engaged because your employees, just like leadership, play a role in the culture. And then what are your organizational values? How many people know what their organizational values are? A lot of people can tell you what their vision and their mission statements are, but they cannot tell you what their organizational core values are. For my company, my core values are trust, respect, integrity, and collaboration. A lot of times now, there are 5 generations in the workplace. I can tell you Gen Z, and when Gen A come up behind Gen Z, they're going to be looking for organizations that are in alignment with their own personal values. So it's important to know and define, if you don't already have them, what your organizational values are. Communication. Communication goes a long way. That's two-way communication, giving feedback, also talking to your employees. The worst thing that can happen in your organization is the rumor mill tell your employees something before you do. Because that impacts the trust, that impacts the integrity, that impacts how they show up in that environment. So transparent, honest communication, and also having a mechanism for your employees to communicate with you. And then rewards and recognition. We've all at some point worked somewhere, and we all want to receive rewards, recognition, accomplishments. Think about the impact if you do a great job and you're never recognized for it. Or if you do a great job and you see someone who's doing less than you, but because the boss likes them better, or they get along better with their personality, they get the benefits and the recognition and the rewards that you don't. Most people are not working just because they like to work. And most people want to give their best to a job. So it's on you as leaders in your organizations to give your best to your employees. So now that you've given your best to your employees, let's talk about the benefits of a positive culture. When you have a positive culture, you have employee satisfaction and retention. When it comes to retaining employees, we know that there's this thing called revolving door. We heard about the Great Resignation, all of that. I want to put some dollars to it. When you think about the number of people who leave your organization in a year's period of time, I want you to think about the average salary for those people. And then I want you to calculate the dollars spent for the people who have to pull the extra weight when that position is vacant, how long it takes you to backfill that vacant position, the costs associated with that, the costs that's associated with onboarding, whether that's background checks, whatever, fingerprints, clearances, whatever that is, add a dollar amount to that. According to the Society for Human Resource Management, SHRM, on average, the cost of turnover is $220 billion. I get some people who are going to leave your organization no matter what, right? But if you are creating a certain culture, it's going to be harder for them to leave. There have been people who've been loyal to an organization who was loyal to them, who said no to jobs that were paying them significantly more. So another thing is increase in productivity. I talked about the cost of disengagement. If you have a positive work culture where your employees feel valued, where they feel seen, where they feel heard, where they feel like they can contribute, that is going to have a direct impact on your employees' productivity. Enhance innovation. Innovation goes a long way as we see all this new technology coming into the workplace. You want to be able to provide an environment where your employees can be innovative. They can take risks. And I understand in some jobs there are certain parameters that you can't go outside of, but within those parameters are an opportunity for employees to innovate and take risks. And then you're going to have an improved reputation. Days are long gone when people can't look you up on the internet and find out about your business. Even before I take on clients, I'm going to research them. If they're a publicly traded company under the Securities and Exchange Commission, there's this thing called EDGAR. I'm going to see how many times they were sued by their employees, what the outcome of those lawsuits were. I'm going to go to Glassdoor. I'm going to go to LinkedIn. I'm going to go to Indeed, because I want to know what your employees are saying about you. So if you have a good culture, your employees are your brand ambassadors. They're going to be the ones saying, yes, come work here. They're also going to be the ones who say, no, you don't want to work here. And then on top of that, you have resilience. Things are constantly changing. If you have the right culture, you create an environment where your employees can adapt to that change. Okay, so now you've had a great culture, but let's talk about the consequences of a toxic culture. The high turnover that I mentioned, it's a revolving door. When you put the dollars to it, you see how much sense it makes to create a positive culture where you can reduce that turnover. Poor performance. Employees in a toxic work environment suffer from poor performance. They may have burnout, they may have the revolving door, they may have this thing called presenteeism. I'm present, but I'm not giving my best. And I'm not giving my best because maybe I'm physically sick, I'm mentally not feeling well, or I'm emotionally going through things. But your culture is one that says to that employee, even though I'm not my best self, physically, mentally, or emotionally, I feel obligated to come to this organization and work. Well, when they come to work, presenteeism, 7.5 times more than absenteeism, this presenteeism results in lost productivity. You can't afford for them to be in an environment where they don't feel like it's okay to stay home. Reputation damage. I already talked about how people are going to look you up. When it comes to whether it's your customers, future employees, if you have a toxic work culture, it's going to have a direct impact on your brand. And there's legal and ethical risk. If you have a toxic culture, you're probably going to have more lawsuits. And you're going to be spending a lot of money and time on those lawsuits. So I want to share some strategies to improve workplace culture. As leaders, it's your job to lead by example. Also define and communicate what your values are. If you don't know what your values are, if you haven't created your values, start thinking about those. Encourage feedback. There should always be a mechanism for your employees to share feedback, because as I always say, the people doing the work tend to have the best ideas. So it's on you to listen to them. Promote diversity and inclusion. And diversity is beyond just what we look like, because I can look exactly like somebody and we're totally different. I'm originally from the great state of Mississippi. I'm not going to think like somebody from New York, probably. My experiences are probably not the same. So promote diversity and inclusion. That also helps you when it comes to your innovation and moving the organization forward. And invest in your employee development. We know when the budget gets tight, training is usually the first things that go. but invest in your people because you want them to invest in the organization. So in conclusion, it's important to recognize that leadership matters. How you lead your organizations make a very big difference in your culture. Your values are fundamental to the success of your organization. Communication is key. I like to use personal relationship examples. Imagine if your mate didn't communicate with you. And we all know the absence of information leads to assumptions, right? You don't ever want your employees to assume certain things. Create that two-way communication. And have opportunities for continuous improvement because cultures are going to always change. Things in the world are going to always change. So I just want to leave with you, if you care about the success of your organizations, whether you're for-profit, nonprofit, healthcare, higher ed, whatever it is, focus on building your workplace culture. And if you have no idea what that culture is, I'm Nicole L. Turner, the Culture Pro. You can reach out to me at any point in time. I open with a quote. I like to lead with a quote. Richard Branson's quote is one of my favorites. Take care of your employees and they'll take care of your business. It's as simple as that. Healthy, engaged employees are your top competitive advantage. And that was my information.
Wow, that was good.